For this video, I'm going to go over making some worn edges on your tank using an occlusion material. Here's the clay render that I have. All I've done here is just put on global illumination with no materials. So I'm going to start with the barrels. I'm going to give the barrels a material group by just pressing M and naming it barrel. So now I can see that over in the shader tree. Here I've opened up the assets library by pressing F6, and I'm looking down under materials. I'm looking for occlusion materials, and there's one called worn edges, which is perfect for this kind of effect, and we can use this as a base to start tweaking the colors and the attributes to make it perfect for what we want in the model. Okay, so I'm just centering my camera around the barrel for a better view. And I think I had some depth of field on, which was not good for this right now, so it takes me a second to figure that out. Okay, turning off the depth of field. Okay, now we have a clear view, and you can see that slight yellow discoloration happening at the edges, and a little bit of tiny slivers of silver, or like a shiny metal popping through the edges. So I'm going to go up to my material group for the barrel and look at what's happening under the hood. So we have this group with the occlusion mask. We have a secondary paint layer that's kind of an overlay over the entire material that's gonna give it a little bit of that discoloration, and I just turned it off to see what it looks like without it. It's just that splotchiness, general splotchiness everywhere, which is kind of nice. But we can tweak the material without that effect for now, just for clarity. And so I turned it off. And then there's one material called the base paint material, which is that yellow color, and I'm just tweaking that around to see what it does. I just wanted a dark metal color instead. And okay, that's good. A little bit of reflection. That's too much, so probably turn it back down. And I'm just making sure the base paint is how I want it. And then now I have these little tiny slivers of metal, and I'm gonna just try to change the color of that metal just to make sure I've got the right material selected. So I'm going to change the specular color to red, and you see that red happening there, so that's good. And then now I'm going to do something else. What am I doing? I'm looking at the mask now that's controlling the two, how the two materials are blending into each other. And the occlusion mask is what's giving us the general edges look. And right here, the occlusion rays, I'm turning that down, which is going to determine the quality. I just want it to be a lower number so it renders a little faster, or previews faster. And then the distance, I think I just wanted to see a little bit more of that worn edge happening, so I increased the distance. And then what else is there? We have bias, which is it's basically turning the mask more towards the black side or more towards the white side. In this case, more towards the metal, underlying metal side, or more towards the base paint side. So I'm just toying around with that. 50% will be pretty much in the middle. So I go back to 50, and then gain is like kind of like your contrast, your black and white contrast. So higher gain is more contrast. Okay, and then I went back and changed the metal back to a normal metal look, and then I am going into I'm kind of happy with the occlusion. Still tweaking a couple things for good measure, but I think that's looking okay. But the cracks, or that weird variation of the little pockets of metal popping through the edges, is created by another layer, another mask that's masking the occlusion mask. So it's a mask on top of a mask, or inside of a mask. So this noise layer that's inside the occlusion layer is, you can see on the right side of that noise layer, it's set to layer mask, and I'm just trying out different options with that mask to control those little pockets of metal that are popping through. And so I'm trying different types of noise. You can change all those options to get different weird effects, and then inside the noise I can control how large it is by selecting that locator that's nested inside the noise layer, and I'm just switching it to a smaller size to get a little bit higher frequency of those cracks. And when I'm changing sizes, I type in a number and one value, and I'm pressing Alt and Enter at the same time, which will scale everything proportionally. It's a little shortcut. And then I was looking at the base paint, and I thought it was a little too reflective still, so I turned on some Blurry Reflection to kind of, it sort of diffuses that reflection and spreads it out a little bit. So that's the gist of it. I was getting a little bit too much of that worn popping through everywhere, so I changed the gain a little bit, or the bias, to cut it out, or like limit the values to only the edges instead of over the whole thing. And then finally I added back the secondary paint color overlay on top of everything, which just gives it a little bit more of a natural, like, dirty feeling. It's just a random variation between those two colors, the orange and the tan, and that's set to an overlay in the blend mode on the right side, and the opacity is 60, so you'll still see all your materials that are happening underneath it in combination. So that's it. Good luck. Thanks.